I needed a break from all the packing because we're in the process of moving apartments next weekend, or well, whenever that manages to happen. So we're gonna get some work done on the SparkJoy app. I think I left off at the part where, let's see, where is the code? So we left off at the part where I need to make it so that things are votes, yes, thumbs up and thumbs down need to be separated based not just on which widget they belong to, because a widget can be for a blog or for a chapter in serverless handbook or an email or whatever. And then you have individual instances of those votes that are for a specific blog or a specific sort of thing, and I need those to be counted separately. So that's what we're going to be working on. We got the front end done last time. Let me make sure that that's true. I think we got the front end done last time. So now we gotta get the backend part done and ready. So we're gonna be working mostly on the serverless part now. cd sparkjoy yarn cd front end git status. Let's see, yarn start. Come on, yarn start, and then I go into the backend part ls, and let's see, what does the backend part say? Let's go into serverless YAML and see if we can, hey fuzzy buddy, haven't seen you in a while. Serverless YAML, here where we define the Dynamo database. So I'm going to start this just so we have it in the background, here we can see what we're working on. What? Come on, this worked just like cache sync queries last. What? Okay. Yarn clean. Nope. rmrf.cache and public, and then yarn start to recompile the front end and see if that's gonna make it work. Otherwise, this is a little bit confusing because we left it off working last time. So the backend, each widget, so we have a widget table and we have a joy widgets table. Let's see, how are the tables defined? If I go into AWS, so I've clearly forgotten how all of this works, which makes the whole project a lot more fun. So AWS Management Console, we TechOps, no, not, that's the wrong one. Sign in to different user, I need to sign in as myself. Go there, sign in. And then we go into DynamoDB. And DynamoDB is going to have tables. So if we filter by SparkJoy, we have the SparkJoy votes and the SparkJoy widgets. I don't know why it's widgets 2. That's weird. Why is it widgets 2? So widgets 2. Wonder why I did that. Okay, so we have votes.dev, and each vote belongs to a widget ID. It has a vote ID, and then a bunch of answers to follow-up questions, when it was created, and whether it was thumbs up or thumbs down. Each widget, however, has a user ID, that is who created the widget. Then it has the widget ID, what follow-up questions exist. Then it counts thumbs up, and thumbs down, so that we have an easy way to count them. And then it has the widget name, which is basically the widget type. Okay, so now we need each instance. Let's see, how does it work? So we have a hash of widget ID. We should add a range not for vote ID, but for each. Let's see, it should have a vote ID, widget type, instance. What did we say these are going to be called? Let's go into the front end and look at vote.js. So it saves the vote with a voter and an instance of joy. And the instance of joy is what needs to be a unique identifier. So instance of joy is kind of a weird name for this, but let's go with it. because we have a type of joy otherwise, right? So each widget has a widget name. Okay, we're calling it a widget name, widget type. Let's rename that to widget type. I think that's gonna make more sense. So let's search for widget name, git grep widget name, and rename that to widget type, just so that the whole thing makes more sense. So I'm gonna, let's cd back out of it, git grep widget name, and we're going to widget name. Okay, widget name. All of those show up on the backend. Perfect. So we go into first mutations.ts. We look for widget name, and come on, name, and we replace those with widget type. Type gets the type, and we need to get type as here, type. Okay, so that's going to be slightly annoying. So I'm gonna go through the entire process of renaming a bunch of things right now, which is probably going to cause problems. So widget.name, widget, oh, come on, type equals widget type. Then we get, say, feedback, blah. Okay, where else do we have it? Then in mutations in queries ts, we also need to rename this. So it's type widget type gets user ID, widget ID, blah, all widget gets widget type and type here. Okay, so then we need to go into the queries on the front end side, queries, and we need to widget name, or where does it say name? That needs to get changed into type. So name becomes type. And what else? Where else do we have it? Dot name, dollar name. Okay. Then we need to look at where we're running save widget, and gotta rename it there as well. Git grep save widget. We go into GraphQL TS. No, do we go there? Yes. So widget has a type, not a name. Widget type. Then feedback has a vote type. Answers created that widget ID. Widget blah. Vote result. What does the vote result return? I guess that's type as well. Type save widget gets the type. Bam. Okay. Yes. So that's type. Then user voter blah save widget mutations. Okay. So that updates our types. Now I'm going to deploy the backend. So we say yarn deploy, and while the backend is deploying, we can go and look at where we're calling save widget on the front end. Git grep cd git grep save widget, like that, and we go into use widget exporter, and we look for save widget. Save widget, function saves the widget, copy to clipboard, save to backend gets type of joy and passes it in as type, not as name. Okay, so that's the type. Then we open queries.js, and we look for save widget. Okay, so that should all be saved now, or it should all be updated. So I'm going to, I feel like I should just nuke all of this just to be sure. So we're going to delete everything from the SparkJoy widgets table and from the SparkJoy votes table. Delete. Okay. So now the votes also need to have a new identifier. Instead of just a vote ID, I want them to have an identifier. So widget ID and then the instance of the widget. So we have the type and the widget instance. So widget ID and widget instance or instance identifier, and then a vote ID for the vote identifier. So I'm gonna go into serverless. Let's see if it lets me add that here. Like, can I have 3? So we say widget ID, widget vote instance. We said that the mutation is going to get, in vote.js, we're sending in an instance of joy as a parameter. The widget vote query gets, where is it? Save widget feedback, save widget query, widget vote query. We have the user ID, the widget ID, whether it's thumbs up or thumbs down, who the voter was, and then the instance identifier. So the instance identifier actually, instance of joy makes sense. Let's just keep it as instance of joy. So we're gonna say widget ID, vote ID, and instance of joy, which is also going to be a range. Tap, tap, tap. Come on. Instance of joy. So instance of joy is another key in our schema, right, in the feedback table. So then when we save the feedback here, we have save widget, save feedback gives us a vote ID, and we pass in an instance of joy. Is that what we called it? Instance of joy. And we get instance of joy, which is a string like that. So let's actually move it up. So instance of joy becomes part of all of the identifiers like that. And then we have vote type in answers created at. This updates fields. This is some sort of magic stuff that I built once. Expression attribute values fields. Where do fields come from? Vote type answers created at. Okay, so widget ID, vote ID, and instance of joy, and that's our key. Expression attribute values, object from entries, update fields, join. I feel like I got too smart here. I don't actually know how this code works. So it seems like it's time to build some sort of easy ORM abstraction on top of this. Maybe. Okay, widget ID, instance of joy, set update fields. Cool. Now I'm going to deploy this on the backend. Let's see if that works. Yarn deploy. And it might complain that we're not allowed to do this with the table, which is fine, because then we're just going to create a new feedback table. Instance of joy string is declared here. What? Argument of type blah. Instance of joy. Where we're calling the feedback. So we need to go into GraphQL TS, say feedback, vote ID, instance of joy, string, like that. Say feedback. Will that work? Now if I yarn deploy, I'm a little confused about how I made all of this work, to be honest. So that's the type. No. Property instance of joy is missing in type. U22 mutations.ts instance of joy string instance of joy. Where is it missing? Widget ID, vote ID, created that. but required in type. What? Why does this not work? So we have the save feedback. Ah. Here we go, that's where it's missing. So vote widget ID, vote ID, instance of joy ID. All right. So now it's going to work. Yarn deploy. So we're first updating the widget counters, and then we save a new instance of joy into the DynamoDB table. Yes. So let's see if this manages to deploy. In the meantime, we can start the front end again. Yarn start. And we'll see if this works. So it's uploading to AWS, setting up the new DynamoDB tables and stuff. And the front end doesn't work. Unhandled rejection. Ah. Alright, let's see first if this manages to deploy, and then we can go figure out why the Gatsby build fails. I think it's gonna have something to do with the database being empty. So that's happening. Joy feedback table property attribute definitions is inconsistent with the key schema of the table and the secondary indexes. Oh right, that's what I forgot. We need to define this part as well. So this is also a string, attribute type string. Now we deploy again, and let's see if it's gonna work. It's a with DynamoDB, it's important to keep attribute definitions and the key schema in sync. It feels kind of silly to have to do both of them, but that's just how it works. And let's see if that manages to set up, then we can go figure out what's wrong with the front end. And I think what's going to be wrong with the front end is, let's look at Gatsby Node.js, set it to JavaScript React. On line 36, what does line 36 do? Result data, yes. So we're gonna have to do it this way. Widgets for each, and we say const widgets equals all of that stuff. But if no widgets are returned, then we can't really do anything. If there's no widgets, then we can we just bail out? Yeah, then we can resolve. Return, oh no, then we can just yeah, let's just do it this way. Return resolve, no widget pages to set up. Okay, so that's that. This still doesn't work. CloudFormation cannot update a stack when a custom named resource requires replacing. Rename Spark Joy votes dev and update the stack again. Ah, that's why we're gonna do votes too as well. Yarn deploy. So when we add things to the schema, it apparently, I always forget that, but it's AWS isn't smart enough to update the name of the table. You need to create a new one. And I'm sure saying smart enough is not the best formulation, but that's just how it ends up being. I'm sure they have very good reasons for why they don't want to do that. But it's also pretty exciting that I'm soon gonna be able to start finally using this project for my mailing list. Okay, so it's updating. One validation value key schema element blah blah failed to satisfy constraint. Member must have length less than or equal to 2. Okay, so we're not allowed to use that as an identifier. Will we need vote IDs to... Actually, you know what? Vote ID doesn't need to be a key. We're mostly going to be getting values by either the widget or by the widget plus the instance. So by the identifier of the widget plus the identifier of the specific instance of using the widget. We're not going to be really identifying with votes that much because we can scan for votes. We don't have to go retrieve a specific one, which means this should work. We should be able to have just identifiers based on the widget and the instance. If we look at the queries that we're using so far, we're either getting all of the widgets or we're getting a specific widget. So we don't really need... Yeah, totally makes sense. We don't need to identify by vote ID, we need to identify by instance of joy. And now it's going to manage to deploy. In the meantime, we can now yarn start the front end, which will let us... We just fixed it so that if there's no widgets returned, it still starts up, doesn't... Nope. Cannot read property widgets API of undefined. Qua? Gatsby Node.js, line 36. Line 36. Result data, widgets API, all widget, user ID, widget ID, name, follow-up questions. So the result of data didn't return anything. Huh, that's confusing. We're gonna have to wait for the backend to deploy then, and then go see what the heck is going on. Okay. Come on, stack update, deploy. Pa-pa-da-pum. Okay, come on. It's almost there. It's getting very close. Well, at least we know it's gonna work this time because of how long it's taking, I think. Come on. Why is it so slow? It's usually faster than that. Okay, there we go. So it managed to deploy, which means we can now go look at... So if we look here, you're gonna see that a new table is gonna show up. Spark, yeah, see Spark Joy votes 2, which now has widget ID identifier and the instance of joy key. So we can go here, dev graphql, and cannot query field name on type widget, but we can query field type. It needs blah. So now let's see. Query all widget if we want to get the user ID and we want to get the widget ID, and it's not name, it's type now. That's why it didn't work. If we play that, we see that we get no results, which means we gotta change this stuff here. So this is one of the problems with renaming things in GraphQL. So this is now, come on, a type, not a name. So that means we get a type here. Should we just call it widget type? That's fine. User ID, widget ID, type, and follow-up questions. Follow-up questions. Then we get instead of here we get let's name it widget type. It's called widget type. yeah, you know what? I'm gonna name it widget type instead of just type, because that's going to be easier to work with. So in mutations here, when we return the value, we are just going to return widget type because it's already saved as widget type, not as widget. So for save feedback, we're also gonna have to save the voter. So let's do one thing at a time. In queries TS, we're getting here, instead of type, we're getting widget type. And then here also we're getting the widget type, not the type. And then in GraphQL TS, this is vote type widget. This is going to be, come on, widget is going to have not a type but a widget type, just like it has a widget ID. Then widget ID vote type blah type widget type, not. Why is the vote result returning a widget type? That's weird. But it's not returning a, whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Weird. Okay, whatever. So here we have save widget gets the widget type, and then we go into save widget again here in mutations. Widget vote, save widget, save feedback, save widget gets widget type, and then widget type gets widget type, widget type. There's a lot of this sort of retyping of the same thing, isn't there? I'm pretty sure I can automate this better. And here it needs to return widget type. Name type. Okay, that should be better now. Right? Yes. It should be in theory. So I'm going to yarn deploy this again. Yarn deploy. So we now change it so that instead of returning just a type, it returns a widget type, which is going to make the other parts of our code less confusing. So here, when we query, we get the widget type. We pass the widget type into each Gatsby node. Then when we're creating pages, we're passing in the widget type. Right? Now we have to look at the vote page. So vote.js is a page that gets, instead of the name, it gets the widget type. Okay. And where else does it have name? This name is also widget type. Vote type heading, widget type, vote type, and then page context widget type into the vote page. Or you said show thank you, vote type blah, answers, vote ID, vote type. All of that is fine, I think. Aha. Here, where vote page, save widget feedback query. Why is this not passing in the type of joy? Should it? No, it doesn't have to, because this is the feedback, not the vote itself. I think. This is getting complicated. So form view, the name is widget type, right? Yes. Okay, so the save widget feedback query, save feedback. Now, how does the save feedback mutation work? Save feedback. So we did add instance of joy to save feedback, but save feedback also comes from here. And then here we say vote type answers created at, and then we so that's where we do need to have it work by vote ID, not just by instance of joy. This is complicated. So we do need to have it identified by the vote ID, not just by the instance, because of how we save additional answers to queries, which means we have to go back to instance of joy needs to be not an identifier, which is going to make some types of aggregate things slower, but it's gonna make it faster to do these sort of updates. Yes. Alright, get back to the drawing board. Here we're going to change this so that vote ID is still the identifier and instance of joy is not going to be an identified attribute. So I'm gonna yarn deploy this again, and now I'm hoping it's gonna work. What else did we forget? We get the vote, we need the voter. The voter needs to also get saved. So while we're here, while we're waiting for the deploy, we can also pass the voter into the feedback. So vote type, voter. Okay, the voter gets saved in the feedback. Save feedback, gets the voter as a string, and then that gets saved here alongside the other stuff. Instance of joy, the voter. Let's deploy that. Okay, so now I'm pretty sure this is gonna work. I know it's confusing and it's really hard to follow because it's hard for me to follow as well, especially if you don't have the context of how all of this works. But I think we're close to having it really working now. And then once it works, I can start using it, which is going to be super exciting. Okay. So this is going to deploy now. And now I'm going to be able to run yarn start because things should be matching now. So the queries I'm running on the front end when compiling should be matching the queries that are defined on the backend, and we'll see if that's true if this loads up. Can I use light is outdated? Okay, so that worked. We can now go to localhost 8000 here, load this up. Yes, okay, so that loaded up. Now I'm gonna wait for the backend to deploy, and then I'm gonna test it by creating a "Did you enjoy this email?" widget. Let's see. Stack update progress. Come on, code, run faster. Okay, so these deploys are, I think, a little bit faster if I'm not live coding, but it's still a bit of friction when you're testing stuff like this. It's still better than what I'm using with Heroku or other things in my day job, but it's not perfect. It's still not a perfect developer experience. It's getting close though. It's getting very close, I think. Okay, so if we can get this working, I'm going to then say that that's gonna be enough for today. Cool, that ran. So I can now reload this page and we're gonna see what happens. I'm gonna start sparking joy. I'm gonna log in as me. That logged in. Okay, and I don't have any widgets, so I'm gonna say did this email. So that's an error that has always happened. Okay, that one is not. Why is this erroring out? So I'm getting an error on GraphQL, cannot query field name on type widgets. Type widget GraphQL validation. Where did I try to query that? So let's see. Headers, I was running the all widget query. Let's look that up. Git grep all widget. So where am I running all widget? In queries.js, all widget query. This is no longer name, this is now widget type, and it goes up here for better stuff. This is also the widget type now. Hey Marcin, what I'm hacking today is working on my SparkJoy app so that I can hopefully start using it. Basically, I'm at a point where I want to have a widget for thumbs up, thumbs down that goes on each of my emails. But then I want to have an easy way of identifying which particular email it belongs to without having to recreate the widgets all over. So last time, I think it was last Sunday maybe, but a couple of days ago I made it work so that the front end accepts a parameter that says, hey, this belongs to this particular email. Now I'm making it so that the backend understands that as well. And while I'm doing that, I'm renaming and refactoring a bunch of things so that the naming makes more sense. Let's see, does any of this say name? No. Now I gotta find where I'm running the all widgets query and the other stuff. So GraphQL TS, frontend, Gatsby node, we fixed that one. Widget list is now gonna get no longer the name, it's gonna get the widget type here. Widget type, so we've got that. Then what else? All widgets query. Then we have the queries.js, we fixed that. We also need the widget query. Git grep widget query, because that one also gets a name now, not okay. Name, widget type, no. Use widget exporter, save to backend. Type of joy, follow-up question, save widget query, type of joy, user ID. This is now called widget type. Okay, type, let's see, type of joy, type text, that's fine, type of joy, perfect, so that should work. Then we have in the widget admin, wow, I even built a widget admin page. Of course I did. So widget admin page, this is no longer gonna say name, it's gonna be widget type. And widget type, let's see, use widget state. Use widget state, action type. Action widget. Aha, yes. Type loading, type, perfect. Aha, use widget state, widget type, widget ID and widget type. So use widget state. So as it turns out, it is very difficult to just rename things in JavaScript. This is why I should be using TypeScript, but I'm not. Okay, so I think that's gonna work now. What else do I need to? Did not name, but widget type, widget type Spark Joy, and then we have widget builder with widget type, and let's rename that as well while we're here so we have more consistency. Widget type, well, use widget exporter, type of joy, Editable, type of joy, update. Okay, so I think that's gonna work now. I'm gonna try restarting my front end and see if I got all of the renaming right. So note to self, do not rename stuff in JavaScript, especially not if you don't have any tests, because it gets out of hand very, very quickly. Damn. Okay, so let's see if this runs. It ran, and it doesn't get any errors yet. Start sparking joy. We log in. No GraphQL errors. At least I think not. Okay, so we're gonna say, did this email spark joy? Export, and something failed. We got this GraphQL request failed. When we were saving the widget, we got a response, unknown argument type on field save widget. Okay, so save widget, use widget exporter, save widget, type of joy, save to backend. Okay, save to backend, it gets type of joy, widget type of joy, but it actually tried to run, aha, widget type, save widget, come on, widget type, and use widget exporter, widget type of joy. Okay, let's try that again. So start sparking joy, that logs me in. I can then go write email here, export, copy to clipboard, yay! Okay, so that worked, and now I got a URL. I'm going to restart my Gatsby. In the real world, this would run a Netlify rebuild, so that after the Netlify rebuild is done, people can start using the vote page. So I'm gonna have that, and I'm going to upvote it with let's do a thumbs up. So I'm gonna go to localhost blah, and I'm gonna say, instead of subscriber email address, the voter is going to be, and why does it say and amp? That's not great. What? It's not supposed to say and amp there. We're gonna deal with that later. So let's say I am Swizzets at swizzets.com, and instance of joy is, what should we say is the thing I'm voting on? Let's say the email that I sent from today. Serverless dx is the email name. Actually, let's see, how does that widget builder and amp, no, widget, oh right, use widget exporter and amp, no, style element inner HTML, something there is weird. So I'm gonna run this now and we'll see if it works. Okay, I don't need to be authorized, but did it manage to save the vote? So it says you enjoyed Swizzets what? Okay, so that part didn't work. It did not get the widget type correctly. We can go into DynamoDB, reload the page, and look for Spark Joy. So we should have widgets2 dev. Let's see if my widget saved correctly. Come on. Why is this not loading? Spark Joy widgets 2 items. Okay. So we have the user ID and the widget ID. User ID, widget ID, created that. Follow-up questions, thumbs up, thumbs down. So that's saved. Widget type email. Perfect. So why did that not load? Let's see, Gatsby node, when it creates this stuff, it gets widget type. Let's see if it does in fact get widget type. So all widget, user ID, and widget type, play. It gets the widget type as email, so that means it gets passed into our page. So the widget path, the vote path is vote.js. So vote.js widget type gets the widget type, and then it's supposed to vote type heading, form view, widget type. Here instead of name it needs to say widget type. So I'm gonna reload this page, or will it reload itself? It did not reload itself. Let's try again. So come on, thumbs up, blah. Let's go into components, and if we look at heading, vote type heading, vote type widget type is undefined. If we go into vote page, page context, widget type is defined. Okay, so vote page widget type, perm save vote. Where does it render the form view? On submit, aha, here it needs to say widget type, and now it works. You enjoyed Swizzet's email, perfect. And that update, that's saved. Now let's see if it's saved as the correct feedback here. Grocery list, hot dog taco, votes, Spark Joy votes. Okay, here we go. Here's the moment of truth. We have the widget ID, that is correct. We have the vote ID, also correct. We don't have any answers yet because I haven't answered stuff. Created at, but that is correct. Instance of joy, serverless DX, vote type is up, and the voter is me. Yes. Okay, so everything works, pretty much. So that works. I can now say, because this is cool, enter. Response not successful. Aha. So we've got something that didn't work. Timeout during blah. Let's see, GraphQL, save feedback, response, field save feedback, instance of joy is required, but it was not provided. So if we go into this stuff, field save feedback, argument, save feedback, instance of joy wasn't provided, even though it's still up here. So I could provide it, but I don't want to have to provide it. I want to be able to, like, once we have the vote ID, I should be able to just keep going with the same vote ID, which means where we are defining our queries, save, no, yes, queries, no, not queries TS, GraphQL TS. Here where we go save feedback, instance of joy needs to be yes, it is no longer mandatory. So now I just gotta make sure it doesn't get overwritten. So we're going to yarn deploy, wait for it to deploy, and then see what happens. And if this works, I can literally start including this in my next email, which is pretty damn exciting. And then the bugs will roll in, right? Right. Okay, come on. Come on, computer. Deploy. Deploying. Oh, I should probably go to bed. Okay, I just need to get this working, and then I can go to bed. Built with love on the internet. Nice. I am so poetic sometimes. Okay, checking stack update progress. That's deploying. We're gonna have to wait for like a minute or 2 minutes for this to be done. And then I can try to send another answer. Okay, so that did the thing. Blah, blah, blah. Enter. Cannot read property type of undefined. Okay. But did the network GraphQL work? Yes. Type name feedback, data, response preview, save feedback, fields, and type name feedback. Wonderful. So we've got that. Cannot read property type of undefined. Would you recommend this to a friend? Blah. And then it gives me this wonderful thing. Thank you, you're the best. Cool. Now let's see if it overrode my values here. So we have the answers, field 1, field 2, blah blah. Still says serverless DX instance of joy, and it gives me the voter. Awesome. Okay, so that works. And now if I go back to the admin page, I should get better counts. So start sparking joy. Bam. Email has 2 upvotes, and if I go in, it shows me the upvotes and the downvotes. Then we're gonna have to, here I'm gonna, in the next session, I don't know exactly when that's going to be, probably later this week, we're gonna start working on listing all of the things here so that so that it's easier to see what's going on and what kind of values I have, and like analyze the results. So this is going pretty well. I'm going to deploy this, and yeah, thanks everyone for watching. cd git commit -a-m, save votes per instance of widget. Bam, git push origin master, and when this goes to master, Netlify is going to run a deployment, and I'm going to start being able to use this. Sweet. I still don't have a separation between dev and production on the back end. That's probably something I should figure out before I start using it, huh? But either way, this has been a great session. Thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye.